Reddit is a social media platform known the world over for its numerous boards, where members discuss pretty much anything and everything. There's a board for every type of subject that can be discussed by millions of people. Sometimes, however, there are some boards that have strange Reddit posts. Initially seeming harmless, these posts quickly unravel as more people investigate and find they're not just strange. They're downright creepy. Here are just 5 of the creepiest Reddit posts in existence. Hotel on the Mountains. In 2015, a question was posed on Reddit asking users what the creepiest thing to happen to them was. The post itself wasn't all that popular, reaching only modest success. A since-deleted user posted a response that caught the attention of most users in the subreddit. In what had been a sea of boring answers, theirs had stuck out, and for good reasons. The user tells the story of how she was going on a solo cross-country trip towards a family reunion. Her trip was long, so she planned on staying at a friend's house along the way. However, a storm intervened when it caused an accident. She was forced to stay at a nearby dingy motel. She knew it would be dirty, but so many things about this motel seemed off. They forced her to pay in cash, which she thought was weird but found enough to oblige. But once she saw the room, the bugs, the filth, she opted instead to stay in her car. She slept for an hour in the back trunk hatch of their SUV. They were eventually woken up by the sound of a person talking outside her window. It was the man from the front desk. He ended his call and walked over to her room and walked inside. She watched as he came back out furious, slamming the door and cursing. Another guy walked out, which shocked her, considering she hadn't seen him enter. They spoke to each other for a bit, angry about the whole situation, before walking over to her SUV. She covered herself up, and thanks to a combination of her camouflage and the tinted windows, they didn't spot her. When they began walking across the road to the diner, she jumped in the front seat and sped away from whatever situation she managed to escape. She only told her friends about the incident, and they managed to find the name of it before reporting it to the police. They informed her it closed down days before she called. The mysterious Virginia mountaintop hotel might have been the end of this woman's life. Thankfully, it was too disgusting for her to entertain, or she might not have been alive to post on the subreddit post. What their intentions were remained an unsolved mystery. Chronicles of a Hitman. In 2009, a user by the name of 26 posted a eulogy for a friend he'd made on Reddit who'd recently passed away. He revealed in the post that their relationship had started when he'd helped Milo, known online as Religion of Peace, with his website, That Old Guy's Image Host. Milo was 79 at the time of his heart attack, which ultimately killed him, and he'd been known by various corners of the Reddit community, so numerous people joined in eulogizing someone they'd known in the online world. 26 was his only true friend, though, and described the old man as a miserable bastard who he'd miss very much. Religion of Peace was a man who enlisted in the army and fought during World War II. He constantly told stories of his time fighting Nazis, to the delight of fellow Reddit users who enjoyed the content. 4 years after his death, a user brought up the fact that there was a potential mystery attached to Religion of Peace. The mystery didn't lie in the boards of Reddit, but instead on the website 26 mentioned. Many things about this website weren't adding up. First, the website itself wasn't all that interesting to look at. It was basic, filled with porn and useless information. For starters, the website's domain wasn't anything related to the website's actual name, That Old Guy's Image Host. Instead, the URL was lakecityquietpills.com. The user theorized that Religion of Peace was actually a hitman who used the site as a way to secretly communicate with people about targets. These secret codes were well hidden, and the person running this site was using encrypted hashes. Users worked to decrypt these messages and found conversations talking in code and mentioning parties, dates, guests, places, hotel rooms, and other pieces of cryptic information. It was already known that Religion of Peace was in the Second World War, but now the theory was that his experience with killing went far further than the battlefield in the 1930s and 40s. Other posts by Religion of Peace were uncovered, and they discussed ways of killing people, basically telling everyone what was and wasn't possible, while mentioning if he'd tried it before. As this theory grew and grew, many began wondering if Milo actually died naturally, or if he was taken out by hitmen for being too vocal online. Others wondered if he was the boss, or just another person working for someone else. Was he silenced? Nobody knows the answers, and this remains a theory, but a chilling one at that. Nebraska alien hunter. This creepy coincidence brought 3 people from Nebraska together after encountering the same man under similar circumstances at different times in their lives. It all starts with a thread dedicated to former photo developers to air out some of the weird and wacky things they'd seen when developing photos. As is expected with Reddit, there was a ton of comments relating to sexual photos and boring family photos. There was one post, however, that sparked the attention of a few people who'd experienced something seemingly very similar. The now deleted response from a user named 9soft detailed his time working in his high school photo lab. There, he tells us, that he developed the photos and found what appeared to be truly convincing pictures of a UFO. He examined these pictures and believed them to be authentic. Not even 5 minutes later, a man walked in asking for these photos and asked if he looked at them. The user told the man he hadn't because he didn't have the time. He was paid for his work, and the strange man left. Alone. This post isn't all that strange. It's not uncommon for these kinds of posts to claim evidence of authentic UFO or alien images. What made this strange was when someone with the username Bad Alchemist responded, asking if this incident happened in Nebraska and if the man was wearing a blue hat. To everyone's surprise, 9soft responded and confirmed both details to be true in his case. Bad Alchemist told 9soft that his friend had a similar experience in Nebraska with a man in a blue hat with similar types of images. They went back and forth, trying to confirm all the details. Then a third user chimed in by the name of Gunk Rock Steady. He claimed he'd had a similar experience and then asked some follow-up questions for them both, and the 3 began deciphering this strange mystery. The last we really heard from these 3 blue hat Nebraska alien manhunters was that they planned to meet up in Nebraska in person. Then their accounts all vanished. Many believe it was the same person playing a prank, but some wonder if something more sinister happened. We don't know the answer, but the unknown of it all is creepy in its own right. A run-in with the mob. A user by the username Bangarang posted in a since-deleted post that he needed $700,000 or the mob would kill him. As you might imagine, nobody took this all that seriously. Why would they? Most joked, but Bangarang remained persistent and sincere in his claims. When a user asked why he needed the money, he told them he'd been involved in a fight where an 18-year-old was killed. He told users that he had a temper and was on some stuff that didn't help. He also told them he's defensive of his friends, especially a man named John, haunted by the accidental killing of the 18-year-old John, who was in an up-and-coming band, deactivated their Facebook page for some reason, starting a new one moments later. His friends and girlfriend took this wrong and believed it was about him chasing fame and leaving them behind. John and Bangarang eventually faced off a group of people in the desert, fighting on John's ex-girlfriend's behalf. Bangarang and John killed one of the guys who was also a gang leader after he pulled a gun on them. Now the gang is going after him. His last post was a picture of men in black facing his house from afar. He said they'd probably get to him soon. Since then, the user has posted nothing, and nobody knows what his fate was in the end, or even if it's real. A relationship subreddit tragedy unfolds. In 2016, a now deleted post on a relationship advice subreddit appeared, detailing a man struggling to come to terms with his wife's infidelity. The post's title said, "I'm having a hard time coping with my wife having cheated on me with our neighbor." The lengthy post detailed how the original poster, Jason, discovered his wife had been having an affair with their 51-year-old neighbor over a year prior to the post. The couple had 2 kids together, and Jason decided that while he was hurt and ultimately betrayed by his wife, he'd stay with her for the sake of the kids. That was something that plagued him every day. It has been 476 days since I confronted her about it. How do I know? Because every time I catch myself thinking about it, I tell myself, it's only been X days. Maybe you won't think about it tomorrow. When he found out about the affair, he'd been clear-eyed about his desires to leave her, but she threatened him, saying he'd never see their kids again if he did. It wasn't an empty threat, as she planned to use his failed suicide attempt from high school to argue against him and prove he was an unfit father. So he was trapped, forced to apologize to his wife and even the neighbor who slept with her. It took a while for Jason to realize he had to get a divorce. His wife had no interest in fixing their relationship. He'd attempt to get them into counseling, but every effort he made was refuted. Finally, he got an attorney and began the process of filing for divorce, thanking the Reddit community for opening his eyes. Little did they know, the relationship advice subreddit community was in for the shock of their lives. A news story broke out that an Indiana woman by the name of Brandy Worley had murdered her 2 children. That woman was the wife of the original poster, Jason Worley. It was November 17th, 2 days after Jason alerted her to his intentions to divorce her. She then decided to take a kitchen knife and stab their children, Tyler, 7, and Charlie, 3, to death in their home in the daughter's room. She phoned 911 and delivered the chilling admission of her crimes.
I just stabbed myself and I killed my 2 children.
You stabbed yourself and killed your 2 children?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and what's your name?
Brandy Worley.
She remained calm and collected for the duration of the call, telling the operator what had happened, how she'd stabbed herself in the neck, as well as murdered her children. She even details why she did it, bringing up the divorce her husband had informed her about days earlier. Her speech was notably slurred, but she informed the dispatcher she'd taken a lot of Benadryl. When he asked about her husband, she said she hadn't spoken to him, meaning Jason didn't know what had just happened to his kids. It was only when her mother, who Brandy called prior to 911, came to the house that she saw the horror that had unfolded. Her screams woke Jason, and the discovery was made. In the end, Brandy was sentenced to 55 years for killing her son and 65 years for killing her daughter, for a combined sentence of 120 years. The original post on Reddit was stunned by the revelations that this was connected to a post they'd seen long before the murders took place. Jason struggled to recover from what had happened, turning to alcohol, battles with his former in-laws, nearly taking his life, losing his job, and having an endless void in his life caused by his ex-wife. He posted on Reddit a year or so later under a new username, telling everyone that he was getting better, but he'd never be the same. He missed his kids, and nothing would bring them back. With millions of posts online, this is just a tiny scratch in the world's largest bucket. Who knows what other mysteries and shocking, creepy secrets exist on the hundreds of thousands of boards on Reddit? Have you come across any that give you chills?